specific recommendations about what we believe would be a better fit for the community, and this is your opportunity as the residents of this neighborhood to do that. It is not, in this meeting, is not intended to determine whether the project moves forward or not. Rather, it is an opportunity for the community to identify what they believe constitutes an appropriate development on the site. Thank you. We have another committee member joining us. Will you just identify yourself for the people?
Miguel Feliciano, first vice chair of the board.
Thank you so much for joining us. So just to give you an overview of what we will discuss tonight, I want to go through some of the community agreements. I think it's important to ground the conversation in how we proceed, how we start with things, how we will end things, and we want to do things in decency and in order. I'll give a brief project overview so that we don't have another presentation. We've seen the presentation twice. We will have it available if there are certain points of reference that we need to have made for us. I'll do a brief overview of the environmental assessment statement that has already been published on the exact report. Again, that is available for you to review as a public website. I'll talk to you a little bit about the committee's role so that we have clarity on what it is that we can and cannot do and what we're here to do. And then we'll have a structured community discussion. So we're structuring the discussion around what the concerns and questions that the Land Use Committee has heard from the community in various forums about this project. The purpose of organizing the discussion by topics is simply to help facilitate the conversation. In no way are we determining what is important for you. We just want to try to structure things in a way so that we capture the most common themes that we've heard throughout this conversation being presented. If there is something that we are lacking in what is being offered, please feel free to let us know. We are not the residents there. You are. So just to go over some community agreements, we're going to have one person speak at a time. We ask as a committee that you respect differing viewpoints. I am a proponent for maximum diversity in thinking. I don't believe in groupthink. We should all be thinking differently, and we should hold space for that type of thing.
Excuse me. I do give you a little bit of mics tonight. You have to project.
Unfortunately, we were told there are no mics,
Okay.
so I'll try to project even more. Thank you for bringing that to my attention because someone else may also not be here, and it's important. We're going to focus on issues and not individuals. We're going to keep comments concise so others can participate. We are here to identify concerns and develop recommendations. Passion is welcome. I know many of you, I've seen you in forums on this topic, and passion is welcome, but personal attacks are not welcome. We may not have all of the answers tonight, so unanswered questions will be documented and followed up with the appropriate parties. Before I proceed, any questions, recommendations, suggestions? Yes, we acknowledge them as coming out tonight and being willing to have this conversation. Any other questions?
There's going to be discussion of how it's going to impact the reservoir. There's a lot of that.
Can everyone hear the question being asked?
Yeah.
Would you stand up and project, please? They cannot hear you.
So I also wanted to ask if there's going to be discussion at the reservoir is a home and is declared, I believe, is a wet.
We're going to get into specifics.
Right. So I wanted to know if we're going to discuss that, as I did the research, and that building will impact not just that, but also the.
So we're going to have opportunity to discuss those different elements, because that was something that did come up at the common theme around this topic. Any other questions?
Is there any way of knowing the people, like a background of the people who are involved in this project and corporation and association
try my best. I was asking, I noticed that, by the way, I noticed that you have a nice pamphlet, that got up the pictures and everything, but it's all concerning about the property. And my question was, that I would like to know more about the people who are, want to kind of get a marriage going in this venture. And also I want to know the names, I want to know the corporations, and I want to know their involvement, the reasons why they're business area, and so on and so forth. So we got to know who we're dealing with, and it's got to be, in other words, I'm asking for disclosure. You know, we don't want to be coming to the meeting all blind and not knowing who we kind of having this photo or conversation. So I would like to know who's on the other side of the table.
Were you at the previous presentations that were made?
Well, no, I came last time and it was a weekday, but for some reason somebody canceled because they think it was a Saturday. So I was the only one
That
here.
wasn't an established meeting, so.
I don't have to really, to be honest with you.
So I just want to say, they have disclosed who they were. I will ask a member of the team to give a brief disclosure for this resident that they have not seen the presentation, and maybe others who haven't
I
seen the
would like to
presentation.
know, and I would also like to know if they have any other investments in the area, what type of investments they have in the area. Like on Fulton, I see all this development going on. I want to see if they have affiliation, like a syndication, like a business.
So you're asking for a disclosure?
That's correct.
Okay. I'm going to open, that's
Sorry.
perfectly fine.
Okay, thank
I'm
you.
going to ask them to do that before we move through the rest of the agenda, but before they do that, are there any other questions?
Could I have it in writing?
We're facilitating the conversation. They're the development team. If you want to have something in writing from them, that would be a request from them. We don't work with them. Yeah.
Just real quick, I have my aunt that she lives on Highland Park. She owns a house there. I live in Sunset Avenue, I own a house there. However, it seems like this meeting, it was only posted, I think, yesterday. So I would like to know, moving forward, how can I get information on previous meetings? And also, so I could get other neighbor people involved. Because it seems like I asked someone on, my cousin, they said they wasn't aware of this is happening. And that's on I but that's what, 100 feet from the construction. And nobody in my neighborhood knows about this project. So, I would like to get information on how we move forward on spread.
Thank you for that question. We're going to get that addressed for you. Any other questions?
Yeah, I just want to know if anyone from New York City traffic, someone that understands the flow of traffic, understands why zoning is created specifically for high-density residential areas, for low-density residential areas, and for commercial areas, if they're going to have any input for us and for the board regarding this specific location of this building, because it's my understanding that the high-density buildings are usually located on main avenues where there's many outlet points. You have cross streets where people can, leave and move around and jump. Up here, where this is posed, it's on top of a hill, and there's
Without
only
getting
three
into
ways
specifics,
in.
I'm going to answer your question about whether or not that
Yeah.
particular agency can address those concerns.
Yes, thank you very much.
Any other questions?
Mr. Lester? All right, just so that I can have a clear understanding of what the meeting is about, is this also an opportunity for us to propose what we would like to see if this project does not go through the way that the developers want it to go through? Is that this meeting?
starting as I go.
No problem. We're here to help, okay?
I have a question regarding zoning.
So this is a question about what we're gonna do moving forward. We're gonna move the agenda forward now, but I wanted to make sure before we move forward, questions like what Tammy had, what is the meeting about? Those things can be clarified and we can put together, the same understanding. If there are no other questions, I'm going to address some of the questions that were already asked. I'm going to ask the district manager, who I acknowledge for coordinating the meeting, Ms. Melinda Perkins, to speak to the residents. Ms. Perkins? There was a question about the residents not being informed of the meeting, that made you answer your question.
Yes, I live in 122 Sunnyside Avenue, and also I have a aunt that she resides in Highland Park, a couple of 100 feet from the area. Now, I just saw the flyer today. I took a picture on Sunnyside Avenue, which is, and to me it's concerning because now you guys mentioned that you have a previous meeting, and I don't know if those minutes will probably discuss, probably voted on, and be disclosed to.
So your question is about communication about.
So my question is, this is a big problem.
Absolutely.
Right, it's not only affecting the environment, endangered species, whether there's a violation of the wetland related to the reservoir, but also it's a violation to all the community people because it seems to me that this supposed to apply either yesterday or today. The reason I say that because that fly was dry and this other day was really wet.
So your question is?
So my question is like, how can the community have a voice if they're not providing information of the case?
Well, one, I want to say, and thank you for the question, just to let you know, Brooklyn Community Board 5 has over 190,000 residents, and we have projects that are huge, just like this one, that were proposed and talked about in meetings just like this. I want to reassure you that the meeting we had on May 19 was very similar to today, and it's just preliminary. There was no voting, there was no decisions that were made from our board, so this is good. We're still in the best space possible to be heard and to have input. We haven't even gotten to the point where the board is going to actually render a vote and move forward in what they call the ULERP process. So everything is still good as far as input is concerned. Now, reaching everybody, all those 190,000 folks, takes a collective effort. It takes folks like you coming out to meetings like this, sharing your email address, grabbing a neighbor, so that we then have that connection with you. So I hope that each and every one of you, if we're not able to decide that, let me know. But we need your email addresses so that we can keep you updated. We send out a blast every Friday about a number of different things, about 2,000 units that are being put up on Flatlands Avenue, or 2,000 units going into Gateway on Erskine. So this is a huge project, just like the rest, and we want to hear from you so that our members are able to vote in the way that the community wants to see this move forward. If that helps in any way. But I'm just want you to know you're not missing out on anything. You're here today, we're gonna make it happen because you're here.
No, I understand, and my concern is, just like the flyer was done today, right?
Well, look, and I apologize, I didn't answer. This meeting was blasted out to the community 3 times. And then posted physically in different areas. It's just unfortunate that we didn't have all of your contacts to make sure that you were part of that blast.
But you're asking about the timing of the
No, he's asking about communicating the project to people in the neighborhood because it's a very opaque situation. I'm the one
developer is here as a courtesy. This is not their meeting. Hold on a second. Hold on a second. This is not their meeting. This is the land use and housing. We're facilitating the conversation, but they're here at our invitation. This is not a requirement, so they're not required to host a meeting. That's the community board's responsibility to advertise the meeting. I personally had someone hang the flyer in the lobby a week ago. I sent an email requesting this meeting be advertised in advance. So these are the things, signing your name and getting your email address onto the clipboard in the back will allow you to receive correspondence from the district office. But it is not, I just want to clarify, this is not the responsibility of the developer to advertise this meeting.
But why? If he's changing the community so much.
It's the law.
Again, this is a meeting that is being hosted by the community board committee.
We gotta go to city council. Say we gotta go to city council. Make them change the law.
I'm gonna call the meeting back to order. I'm calling it back to order. We're gonna miss out on an opportunity to talk about the nuts and bolts of this project. Sir?
Yeah, I just wanted to know, is email the only way that we have to disseminate the information when topics like this that are really important? I'm not talking about
I'm
like,
going
you
to
know.
turn that over to the district manager.
Yes. It is.
There's email, there's physical posting, there's social media, but if you have a suggestion.
Yeah, I mean, especially for people like this, the community has a lot of Spanish speaking, older people that don't have email, and you know, I don't know, like just flyer bomb like every you know mailbox, every house, and with the buildings, you know, just you know putting the notices on cars. I mean, the city has no problem doing when they have to close down a street to pave or to do something like that. They post it on every single tree.
I wanna say this, and then I'll definitely share. The community board, right, and we're gonna stress the word community. That's our purpose, is to be the liaison between the people and the agencies and all of the other projects that are gonna impact our communities, right? But we're also a two-person staff, and the board members are volunteers. So we would love for you to build that connection tonight, and we'll go out and put stickers on. We know how to do it, but two of us in the office and board members, when they can, are not going to be able to cover the type of area that you would want. However, you can come to this meeting and the meetings going forward to be heard. Remember, this is not your last opportunity.
Zenobia? And how long ago did you start your? So that's the address. There was someone else that had a question, sir. You've asked several questions. Let's let some of the people. Let's let someone else speak because we didn't even, it's 7-11 and we haven't even gotten into the project yet.
Yes, just on the email front, the emails are great, but only for people who have already been to a meeting. In order to get the next group of people, I'm gonna work with Zenobia on getting more flyers out there. Anyone who wants to be part of kind of a media team in terms of creating content and getting it out there, at the end of the meeting, you can meet with us in the back. We'll be talking about that.
Thank you for that very useful suggestion. Thank you. Can you stand up, please?
There is a WhatsApp, and I was added to it at the first meeting, and so were many others, so there is another, but I think you just have to outreach. I do want to say, I think that the community board has been doing their best
Thank you very much.
Community.
Ma'am with the green shirt?
Hello, I'm Jenny. I grew up in Williamsburg, Brooklyn, and I moved to the apartment about almost 10 years ago. My husband is committed at Williamsburg for 4 years. So, my concern is
Is this a question?
yeah,
Okay.
is this rezoning just on that one on that?
We're gonna get into the specifics of the project. We're just trying to move past the community agreements and initial.
Rezoning the entire space and then becoming like another one.
We're gonna talk about the project overview so that you can get that.
I just want to say I appreciate the community, like communicating and the committee, but I also think too that there is a responsibility from the developer to contact the neighborhood because this is a huge, if God forbid, it goes through, this is a huge windfall and financial gain for them. The least they can do is have signage, meet the community. If they are in fact like having goodwill towards the community, they want to, I know they do. That's my point. So the onus isn't on you, the onus shouldn't be on us, even though we are organized and we are doing what we can. I think that we need to be real, that this is a huge financial opportunity for them, and so that part of this legwork should be on their backs as well. And I think that's baked in, that they are doing it surreptitiously, so that we are disorganized, so that we don't know what's going on as well.
Pardon me. I hear you all and I feel your passion. I've been involved with zoning and what's going on in our community since 2012, since the zoning in East New York. I think on the first page of the package we have will answer a lot of your questions. I think your feelings about the city as well. And if you read that first page, it says change in as-of-right development potential since passing of the city yes for housing. When that city yes passed, that policy, no one was safe. You're where you're at. It's a law. They're reacting to that passing of the city of yes. It gives them the right to actually move out. I got you. But the point is, when you see these laws passed, you may think, you say, but that's why you have to stay in touch with your community. This community board does put out a class. They're here. You live in the district. Get in touch with folks. But again, I think what you're going to answer a lot of your questions. We're here in response to a developer moving on the city yes and his ability to build according to the new housing and land use policy. Now, we're going to get deeper. We're going to get, but we can't change the policy if he's here because it says as of right. Because he has the right to build in areas that he didn't have the right to before, and that was given with the policy change.
Thank you.
That's what we can answer a lot of your questions with that law.
As of right, it's not for what they're proposing. It's for something different, not for what they're proposing.
Sir, we're going to call on people so that the commentary doesn't swell in the room. Okay? There are other people in the room that want to offer their thoughts, and we're not going to get to it if other people are speaking at the same time.
So good evening, everyone. I am the chair. My name is Alice Lohman. I am the chair of this great board right here, and we are here for you. We will fight for the community. However, we have to be orderly. We all can't speak at the same time. We have to be respectful and let people finish their thought before we chime in on something. So that is all I ask. We have enough time. We got the room till 8:39-ish. So we know the last time you didn't have a chance to say what it is that you wanted to say at Maxwell. We had to leave the school. That's the reason why I made sure that we have to follow up like I said we would. So with that being said, let us be orderly. Let us go through this. Let's let the developers say what it is they need to say. You guys are definitely going to have a chance to speak your piece. But the way we're doing it now, we're not really getting anywhere. We're all just chiming. You know, it's no order. So if we can just go through the agenda, and Ms. Odessa, who's the co-chair, Lenny, along with Ms. Vivian Bright, here for the people. We're not here to uplift any one developer. You say no, it's no. We're going to hear you out, but we have to be orderly about this and respectful.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. No, sir, we're gonna move on. We're gonna move on so that everyone has an opportunity. I'm gonna say this now, and I open with the community agreements. You have had the opportunity to speak 3 times. I see other people's hands that are raised, and we haven't even gotten into the project overview. It is 7:25. You want to have an opportunity for, you asked 3 questions. We're going to move on so other people can have an opportunity. Okay?
As you heard from the chair and you heard from the co-chair, we're here to help you to work with you. But we need your help. We need you to work with us. Okay. Now, I know that there are lots of associations. That's a way of you guys getting involved with us and in informing your community, the community itself. We're going to try to do everything here possible to make sure that you get that information. But we're limited to how much we can do. And we definitely need your help. So one great idea would be working with your block associations. They could deal directly with us and they can disseminate that information to you. So if any presidency of the block associations, after the meeting, let it come over to us and register with us, and we'll make sure that they get the information so they disseminate that.
All right, so I'm going to address the second question that was asked by the gentleman on the side of the room about the background of people conducting the project. Would someone from the development team say a little bit about, give us a disclosure so that people know who is coming to their neighborhoods to do the project?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Ellie Works. I'm an attorney representing the developer. So the developer, their entity name is Highland Park City LLC, but they're really part of Watermark Capital Group. So that's the developer entity. They're pretty active in Brooklyn. They actually specialize in these, former church properties. They often have, they enter into 99-year leases with the diocese, and they redevelop these, what are now vacant church properties. So if you want to look them up, it's Watermark Capital Group is the developer.
David Redfield and Joel Wider.
I'm not aware of any other properties in East New York. I believe they had some in Bedford-Stuyvesant, perhaps in Williamsburg. I know they're very active in Brooklyn, but I'm not familiar with any other projects in East New York.
Yes, sir.
Do they have any properties under a different name? Affiliate, like a syndication number? That you know of?
Not that I know of. I know them as, I can find out again, but I urge you to check their website. It has a list of a lot of properties and projects that they've worked on.
Have they purchased any other properties or leased any other properties in the immediate vicinity of Diamond Boulevard and the streets coming off Crosby or Sunnyside, Miller?
Yeah, not that I'm aware of. I believe not.
Is this question in relation to the question that was asked by the gentleman here in front?
Yes.
Is it about their disclosure?
Yes.
Okay.
Is it Joel Wider and David Redfield the primaries?
Those are the primary, yes.
And they own approximately $400 million worth of properties in Brooklyn, according to various online sources.
Okay, so again, I don't know the exact net worth of the properties they own. I'm, involved in this project, but that's what you asked. But those are the correct names of the principals.
Can we please
environmental consulting teams that operates in New York City. So they're preparing the environmental assessment statement, and they're going to be analyzing all of the environmental, ecological concerns that we've heard from the community so far. Yeah. Any other questions?
Yeah, the people, the professionals that are performing the environmental assessment statements, are you aware that in their report it says that it will be the building is going to be built near a couple of trees?
We're gonna get to the environmental assessment.
I'm just saying that it's not.
Sir, to maintain order, we're asking, this was a question about the disclosure.
Disclosure question.
Is this about the disclosure?
Well, yes, in part, because
If it's not a question about the disclosure, there are other portions of the meeting that will be more appropriate for other commentary. And we won't get to them if we jump ahead.
I'm not jumping in necessarily. I want to know, you represented them as a lawyer, correct?
Correct.
They were sued in 2025 by the Fair Housing Justice Center. Were you representing them, or do you represent another branch?
No, I've only represented in this project.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's.
Ma'am? We will have minutes.
Yes, I would like to ask, what did you choose that specific location?
So again, they specialize in these former church properties. This is a former church property. They have the relationship with the diocese, which is the current owner of the property. So that's why they chose this location. This fits within their specialty of what they are, projects that they typically target.
All right, you led into my follow-up question. Have you done business with the diocese?
Me personally, the client, yes. Watermark does this often, yes. This is what they specialize in. They look for these now vacant church property sites and try to repurpose them or revitalize them.
For how long have you been doing business with the diocese?
Boss, you have like 5, 6 questions.
So I'm gonna reround the conversation. This is an opportunity to give your input. If we are seeking to perhaps, share things that we already know, we're losing ground on getting information we don't know. So if there are things that we already know, coming to the meeting to try to expose those things is taking up air in the room for conversation about what it is we want, what we don't want, what we think can work, and what will not work. So I'm gonna move the conversation forward. I'm gonna take this gentleman in the back, because I haven't heard anything from you at all, and then I'm gonna move forward so that we can get into the project itself.
Just a quick question. Is there a kind of report that shows the stress level when you're adding buildings to the neighborhood, or the structure, infrastructure, the sewage system, water lines, electricity, water, the home running on? If you keep adding stuff to the neighborhood, are they not supposed to show some kind of report that says?
So if we can move forward, we're gonna get to the environmental assessment. That was read in the agenda. That is something that we're gonna have a brief overview of, and I'm gonna direct you on where you can find the granular details of all of that information.
So you have something coming from these
It is public information on the ZAP, the ZAP portal for this project. It has been filed.
Because right now, if we zone the Atlantic Avenue, and my whole impression come down, and that's Atlantic Avenue. Now we're looking at rezoning.
So your question is about the stress in your neighborhood. That information is publicly available on the ZAP portal,
Well,
and
I'll say this now. I mean, I'm providing.
sir, now we're getting into,
My limited, like,
If you review the assessment, you're going to get an answer to all of the questions that you're asking and more. We're here to let you know where this information is so that you can have the information and that you can make an informed decision and make an informed recommendation about what it is that you want. But if we can't move forward, it's not going to be productive for anyone. So I'm going to go into a brief project overview so that we don't go through the presentation line by line. The applicant is asking the city to approve 3 separate land actions. The land actions are rezoning the property from an R31 to an R6A. The second thing they're asking is a mapping, mandatory inclusionary housing, and a demapping of Robert Place. So this is something that is currently on the map, but it is not built as a street, it is a property. So then they would have this as additional land to build on. Those are the 3 asks for this application. Absolutely. A rezoning of the property from R31 to R6A. Mapping mandatory inclusionary housing. A demapping of Robert Place.
Demapping of what?
Robert Place. R-O-B-E-R-T Place. So what that mapping does is increase the developer's portion from approximately 59,000 square feet to 72,000 square feet. That's what that demapping would do. The location is 341 Highland Boulevard. Again, the current zoning is R31. Requested zoning is R6A with the mandatory inclusionary housing. 345 apartments, 9 stories, 95 feet tall, 222 market rate apartments, 123 intended mandatory inclusionary housing apartments on the developer's proposed site, 58 parking spaces, preservation of the westernmost building for approximately 4,162 square feet of community use, indoor and outdoor recreation areas. Have I missed anything else? Okay. The apartment mix would be 62 studios, 191 one-bedrooms, 85 two-bedrooms, 7 three-bedrooms. Sure, absolutely. So I'm going to repeat that whole section. 345 apartments, 9 stories, 95 feet tall, 221 market rate apartments, 123 intended mandatory inclusionary housing apartments, 58 parking spaces, preservation of the westernmost building for approximately 4,162 square feet of community use, indoor and outdoor recreation areas. So we'll move into a brief environmental assessment statement context. And this is the gentleman in the back. This is, I think, getting to your question about the stress on the land when there are projects being built. So an environmental assessment statement, or EAS, has also been prepared as part of the environmental review process. This is a process that all developers go through when they are proposing projects and having land use actions. It examines areas including land use and zoning, open space, shadows, historic and cultural resources, hazardous material, water and sewer infrastructure, noise, construction, and effect on disadvantaged communities. The environmental analysis generally concluded that the project would not result want to hear whether the analysis from you all as the residents reflects the conditions that residents actually experience and whether there are concerns or knowledge that needs further investigation. Based on what I've shared, that the EAS is already demonstrating, right? You live there, so you can only speak to the applicants. So this is an opportunity for you to do that. I'm going to call on some folks that have not had the opportunity to speak. Gentleman in the back with the blue shirt, would you come up, please?
Good evening. My name is Gerson. I live in the neighborhood. I just want to share some quick things with you guys. So during the era of de Blasio, during the era of de Blasio, we could come here, we could do this, speak to our community boards, speak to our council people, and they were able to stop a project like this. But now in the city of Yes, that rule is different. That's changed. That's no longer the case. So here's what's happening right now. So all this stuff that we're doing here is mandatory. He has to be here. He has to do this. He's not doing us a favor, the developer. He has to do this as part of his permits, okay? So what we need to do, all of this here, the community board, the vote is advisory. Cindy Nurse is advisory. The final say comes from the city council. Every member of that city council has to vote yes or no on this project. Whatever we tell these people here, this is all advisory. Okay? They don't have to take what they're saying here into recommendation. They can proceed with this project. Now, here's how we fight this thing, and I like the energy.
Before you, thank you so much for your comments. Before you proceed,
Respectfully, we're going to listen to you. That's the reason why he is going to continue speaking. Yes, the community board is an advisory board, right? Your city council is the person that will sign in or off on this. And with the new law, right?
y'all need to know this.
The new law, we can say no. They can then say yes, and it's taken out of our hands. Then it will be the city council, it will be the borough president, and it will be the city speaker. So when you say we're just an advisory board, yes, we're an advisory board, but we're an advisory board that fights for the community. You better look at Broadway Junction and other places. So to me, when you say it's only one mic, it's one mic. I know that. It's one mic. Wait a minute. Let's bring order. Let's bring order. You're going to say what you're going to say.
Because we appreciate what you're saying, we want to make sure it's accurate. There was an amendment, there was a ballot measure during the mayoral election that changed the process. So now when it comes to the nitty-gritty about this project, it is the city speaker, it is the borough president of the affected borough, and it is the mayor that has the final say, not the city council. The city council their power was usurped. Let's just say that. So we want y'all to be clear so that as you go through the process, you know what players are the ones that are going to have the final say. So that's one point of clarification. The other point is they do not have to be. This is a meeting that that Chairwoman promised the community so that we can, in our role, facilitate a conversation to fight for what it is that the residents want. So that's the second point. There was a third point of clarification, so we want to make sure that everyone gets accurate information. We're not refuting what you're saying, and we're glad that you're here, and that you're prepared to make these comments. Is there another point of clarification that we need to make?
No.
Please go for it.
I don't want to go back over the legal stuff, but also, I have spoken with a few members, a few people, a few residents here. For too many times, every time we always,
black and brown communities were always on the menu and never at the table. And these projects always happen in these communities because a lot of times, people come here with shouting, I remember what happened with Espinal when they changed the whole zoning around. We have to organize and take our energy and laser focus the energy, okay? And we need to speak with one voice and say exactly what we want. Because we can yell at this guy all day or whatever it is. He doesn't care. He doesn't do anything. It's not his neighborhood. He doesn't live here. What I am proposing, I spoke with a few members, we have a very strong card here. I guess some things were changed recently with the city council, with the voting, but as a community, on our part, what we can do is, the Highland Park up there is a Class 1, is a New York State Class 1 wetland certification. They said the buffer is 100 feet, but that can be extended, right? What I recommend is we create a trust. I spoke to some members. We have to lower it up. Sometimes these things cost money. And we can hire an independent surveyor, licensed independent surveyor that can come, look at the drainage, look at the birds, look at the bird migration. We can file with the New York State DEC Article 24 that he has to get permits to do that, and that will delay this project by 2 years plus. Instead of getting an EAS, which is an environmental assessment statement, we can force them to do it in EIS, which is an environmental inquiry statement.
It's an impact statement.
Impact statement.
Yes.
Study.
Yes.
So we can force it in that direction as well. But in order to do that, our goal, we have to understand our goals. We can't stop this project we can't stop them from buying it and from building it. But what we can do is we can say what this project is going to look like in the end. Not some 9-story, monstrosity with 345 apartments. We can make them do 4 stories or go along with what's already there. Okay, and then that way maybe the project won't be so profitable and they'll move on. Because I already know there's a lawsuit with the church with them.
Yep.
All right, that's in the process, that's going. And if they're gonna pay, I think they offer 43 million, almost 50 million for this building. If we can force them to bring the size down to 4 stories, it's not profitable. Maybe they'll move on and go somewhere else.
I like that.
Okay?
Woo!
Can I make a suggestion? So if we go through the EAS, can you break it down by section so that we can, I know that people have certain areas that they want to focus, traffic or infrastructure or wildlife, so if you could do that, you can facilitate that for us, so that we're not all just shouting.
So that is not, that EAS is 275 pages.
No, there's certain, okay, all right. So then,
So-
may I
so I
suggest
put
that we
down-
first talk about the environmental impact? Does anyone have any input on that?
So I'm going to continue to move forward. Okay. The construction is anticipated, I'm gonna let it.
That's what I mean. Because he asked if we had real life issues with it, so that's what I was asking.
Yeah, it's a follow-up to what you said before about if you have real life issues based off of the
That's what
assessment.
I
That's what you
wanted,
want.
and I just wanted you to facilitate that, so we're not all shouting everything out.
So there's a bit of a summary of some of the rebuttal to what EAS around what the neighbors in that area see and experience on a daily basis.
Yes, and so I want to have the person who is prepared to talk about that discuss it. So laying the groundwork for that, I want to give folks who may not have had that information what is in the EAS so that the rebuttal will make sense.
So we have a summary and perhaps the person who created
So
the summary.
so I'm going to give the overview of that so that when the rebuttal comes forth, that makes sense. Is that all right with y'all?
I know you said there was 247 pages. Can it be turned into a PDF file?
It's available to the public. Anybody can read it.
Download it
So the construction is anticipated to last approximately 30 months. Okay, this is a part of this EAS. The shadow analysis found new shadows would reach portions of Highland Park, although the technical analysis concluded the impact would not meet the CB5-EYN threshold for a significant adverse impact. This environmental assessment, or EAS, includes hazardous material reviews. The underlying phase 1 assessment identified potential concerns involving materials such as asbestos, containing materials lead-based paints, and PCBs that require appropriate handling and follow-up during redevelopment. So I'm going to ask Emily to come up and talk to some of these things that were found in the EAS, and anyone else that is looking to discuss any of the things that were found in the EAS that they would like to bring forward to the developer and to your neighbors.
Hi everyone, I'm Emily Walker. I'm a member of Community Board 5 and a member of the Parks and Sanitation Environment Committee. I'm a resident on Highland Boulevard and Bulwer Place, so I live right next to the park and quite close to the development site. I did read the EAS, and I tried to isolate some of the points that didn't jive. I want to echo my neighbor Gertz's call for a federal EIS. I think we need a really in-depth environmental impact statement on the impacts of this development, because what I read in the report did not jive with my lived experience, both as a resident of the park, or a resident of the neighborhood and a user of the park. But in terms of traffic and parking, the EAS did claim significant adverse impacts to traffic conditions are not anticipated. That was on page 41. I think anyone who has gone to Highland Park, who doesn't live in the neighborhood, or anyone who lives in the neighborhood, we constantly have cars illegally parked at hydrants.
Yes.
24/7. There's a hydrant in front of my house. It is never not blocked. God forbid there's a fire, because my house will burn down. And that is the case for all of us who live in the neighborhood. On Juneteenth weekend, the entire easternmost lane of Highland Boulevard traffic was a parking lot. I could not even drive straight because there was parking along the entire stretch of Highland Boulevard that was overflow parking from people using the park. I also want to know we have increased density because of the 2016 East New York rezoning. The Highland Park is the only large park that is larger than 20 acres that is available to anyone in East New York and Cypress Hills. Those folks deserve parks too. I know we're talking about adding increased density, so I would really ask that the community board consider that the EAS claims that there's no adverse impacts to traffic and parking. When, for those of us who live there, we're not seeing that. I also want to note that in terms of shadows, the park would have a significant amount of shadows during much of the year. We have 8 hours and 53 minutes of incremental shadows on March 21st and September 21st, 9 hours and 21 minutes of incremental shadows on May 6th and August 6th, and 7 hours and 34 minutes of incremental shadows on June 21st. The lowest amount of shadows would be on the winter solstice, when we actually need sunlight the most because it's coldest. I also took issue with the EAS claiming that no historic resources with sunlight-sensitive features within the study area would have the potential to be affected by incremental shadows from the with action development, despite there being upward of 140 trees adjacent to the development site. The EAS characterized those trees as here and there, but I went on the NYC Parks tree map and I counted them. It is a forest. It is not here and there. We're not talking like one tree here and there. It's literally forested area. The water supply to my neighbor Pat's point. I live right next door to my neighbor Pat. We had soil in our water all weekend. Hydrants were open. We could barely do laundry. We could bathe. We could get total drinking water from our faucets. No water pressure, and that was just from the heat wave. So I want to echo my neighbor Pat's concern. I really could not understand how the EAS thinks there would be no adverse impacts to water supply and sewers. For those of us who live there, this has been a chronic issue. I already mentioned the trees. I won't go into that. The EAS made zero mention of birds. We have almost 200 species of birds that exist and nest and migrate through Highland Park and the Ridge River Reservoir, 13 of which are designated as rare, threatened, or endangered by the state. So I really want to call into question the fact that the EAS does not consider wildlife impact
The reason that we're here, and thank you all very much, is because we're not yet in the formal review process. We're here for the very reason that was expressed by the various officials from the community board to hear what you have to say. For example, what you just shared in terms of your perspective on the EAS, I'm recording everything because I'm really not that good at taking notes. But this is all going to be conveyed to the project team. Your comments about where you think there are deficiencies in the EAS is going to be communicated to AKRF. The comments that people are going to have about land use, infrastructure, anything else that has to be reviewed, the extent you take issue, that's going to be communicated. And that's why, once again, I want to thank the board, because this is not part of the formal review process. And I want to thank all of you for being here, sharing it. This is our third time coming out to the community, second time to the community board, and it's very valuable. So just know that everything that's being said tonight is going to be considered by the project team. Where we wind up with that, I'm an honest person. Where we wind up, I'm not sure, but I just know that we're going to go through a process and we'll try to figure out, and to the extent there are concerns that can be satisfied, we'll try to do that. To the extent that there aren't, we'll have to address that, but this dialogue is very important, so thank you.
Thank you.
Just one more thing about the process. So the environmental consultant submitted the draft EAS, so that's the environmental assessment statement. So we're still waiting to get comments back from the city. So a lot of the things that you may be mentioning tonight, the city may also pick up on that and have us go back and reassess. So just where this is not a final EAS, we are still waiting, and the city takes these EASs very seriously. They take months to provide comments, they read through all the chapters. So again, just so everyone's aware of the process, this was just our initial draft, and we're still waiting on comments, and once we get comments, we're going to address those comments further. Just wanted that to be clear about where we are in the process as well.
Thank you for offering that additional comments.
Sure.
So, I'm not sure if I caught this, but the developer is the one that pays for the EAS, or is the one that organizes the EAS? And is there an avenue for the community to get their own EAS? Independent.
Like us to use that for a member of the development team? Good question.
So yeah, how it works, so the developer pays an environmental consultant, the environmental consultant, that's their business. They conduct these EASs, but they're required to follow a certain methodology that's prescribed by the City of New York. It's referred to SEQR process. It stands for the City Environmental Quality Review. There's a specific manual that they need to follow. So everything they're doing is in accordance with the law, and the city reviews it. The city has an environmental assessment review division, which is very well versed in the requirements of the SEQR technical manual. So they're not going to be doing anything that the law doesn't require. So again, if you're concerned that we're paying them and they're going to fudge the data, that it's not. They have to follow the law and do the studies
I'm not
in
saying
accordance.
they won't necessarily fudge the data, but anyone who's got experience with hiring architects, project developers, or project planners, there's ways that you can lean a report in one direction or another. And still be within the letter of the law, which is why I'm asking if there is an avenue for the community to develop their own EAS, or I believe what this gentleman mentioned.
Well, more directly to your question, there will come a time once city planning has concluded its initial review of the EAS and rendered its comments, that then it goes into a public review process. And yes, the community and any other stakeholder will have the right and the opportunity to comment before the city's planning department, the city planning commission, as to what's in the final draft of the EAS. So yes, the community has that full opportunity.
will have a detrimental?
Yes.
It's not showing that it will.
No, I'm saying, like, we did it was, yeah, like, it, hypothetically, exactly, like, if first, like, show that.
So the city planning commission would have to address that. They wouldn't allow something to go forward. That's gonna be the city planning.
So what's the timeline?
So that will start with the public hearing. The community has an opportunity to speak up.
So there was a question about the timeline for the process of looking and reviewing ES before there's a period for public review. And so what does that timeline look like? Is it prescribed? Are there dates they must hit? Are there spaces in time that must be taken into consideration? What are we looking at in terms of the point in time where this ES will be fully reviewed and open for public comment? There it is.
It happens over like a couple of years. Well, we want to speak to like the overall timeline.
Thank you for the question. So the EAS, the review officially began on June 1st. In our experience, it takes at least 3 to 4 months to get comments back from the city. So again, as I said before, they do a comprehensive review. They're reviewing all of the chapters. After we get comments, then it depends on the extent of the comments, if they're requiring additional studies to be done. So that all is a factor in terms of the timeline. So this is what the period that we're in now is referred to the pre-certification stage. So that is, there is an indefinite amount of time that the pre-certification stage can take. Again, it depends on the city's, pipeline, their backlog, how long it takes to get comments. Again, so they've had it in front of them for about 6 weeks now. So we're, again, based on our experience, it typically takes about 3 to 4 months to get initial comments. So that brings us till, October, November earliest to get comments. Then we're gonna have to respond to those comments. Again, depending on the extent of the comments, the nature of the comments, probably brings us at least till the early part of 2027 before this gets certified. That would be, and then once certification hits, as that gentleman mentioned, then it's an official statutory period known as EULR, which is a 7-month period. That's set in the law that takes 7 months. But the period that we're in now, the pre-certification period, that can take, depending on the projects, as an unofficial amount of time. Yeah.
I'm going to ask a question on behalf of the residents. Would they have an opportunity to review this feedback that you're going to get from the review?
Typically not. I believe that comes to the applicant team where, this is within, the pre-certification process. The only thing that is public are things that we repost to the ZAP portal, as Ms. Finn mentioned earlier. So once we get the comments, we address them, then we repost it to ZAP, and then you can see what we reposted to ZAP.
I have one question.
1 second, this lady had her hand up, and my committee member wants to say something for the whole comment.
Yes, I just wanted to say, we got to be careful with language. So we call it assessment. It's an EIS, environmental impact study. Please be careful with language. And when you're looking at this project, just giving you, what you brought up, there's levels of environmental impact. We got federal. Things are going on here. There's federal guidelines when you're dealing with those parks and so forth. You really must understand what your leverage is. That's one good point. You don't just have to sit back and consider the states. There's a federal impact, especially when you're doing wetlands and parks. And you have EPA. Please research the folks. We have a federal. I have to mention it when I'm looking right at it. We have our congressman sitting right here. That I grew up watching. It's time right here. College and everything. We have to understand language. We have to understand using tools. There's a narrow perspective of how you look at this project. So that impact study and how you look at it as far as city and state building, or are you looking at it as parks and wetland? I'm just gonna give you that, and look at the federal level where that's involved, and that might put a different spin on it. So I think that's.
So at this point right now, because it is preliminary, it's a draft, it is an assessment, but there will be a report for you to look out for. So definitely very important to note those distinctions. No, you're here today, you're having this conversation, you're getting this information, you're learning the process at what points you can interject and say, no, that's not true. Your neighbors are looking to coordinate their own thing, and that's going to demonstrate what's really happening on the ground. So no, it's not a failure on your part. You're here today, and you're taking the steps that need to be taken. So the agencies that address these things, there was a question earlier about traffic. So those are going to be taken to DOT. So there are different agencies that are going to be a part of this project, and those are the agencies to look on the website and go to their meetings and look for public comment periods and look for opportunities to testify about this project as it relates to these different aspects. Sammy?
Yes, I'm just going to backtrack a little bit, just to make sure that we stay on point and it's clear. I know what was concerned about who came for the EAS and EIS, and that can the community conduct their own? I think the second part of the question was not answered, we didn't hear that. Can the community conduct their own tests as well? Okay, thank you.
But what if having a vary, like, are we able to submit it, and would there be any acknowledgement or, like you said, it's too paid to have anything done, but if city planning doesn't look at it, then it's pointless. So I guess the question is there an avenue for us to submit an independent study like that?
So all of the players that are involved in approving projects like this, these are the people to contact and submit something like this to, so that they also have that information and not just this EAS or they review what it's finding. That you have to go review and you're saying, hey, we know that this is that portal, but we get our own homework, we got our own data, and it shows this. We want this to be taken into consideration. That's your city council people. I'm sorry. That's your city council people that will be weighing in on this. Again, you can go on to the city council website and look at when there are land use and housing committee meetings for the city council. Look for opportunities to go and give testimony. These are the points at which you engage in the process and with whom you engage in.
And their city council for this project is Sandy Nurse.
But it's city planning.
Her representative Dom is here from their office. Dom, you want to stand up and let the people know that you're here on behalf of Sandy Nurse?
Let her know we'd love to see her.
Yes.
I've called it out several times.
Yes, just in terms of what you were saying about water and all of these concerns that we have, that we see the current study or statement in draft form is obviously not accurate to what our experience is. They have a certain criteria that they're using to measure that. It's obviously not a great criteria given that even a draft is so severely disparate from our experience. Our testimony in words is one thing, but our testimony in video would be another. So what I recommend is that every one of us take video evidence of our faucets when they're low, of the traffic. Exactly, but just the more video footage we have, timestamped, the footage that we have of the parking timestamped, the footage of we have the traffic timestamped. They can deny our statements because they can say that's opinion, But if we have massive collection of videos and photos that are all timestamped, dated, that's going to be much harder for them to be able to fight. For now, just start taking it and then communicate on the app. Get on Zenobia's app and start feeding that information into the app. I will see that we can try to get a hard drive that we can put everything on together, and so then we can deliver that hard drive organized with all that evidence in one package. That way they won't be able to say, oh, this is just their opinion that their water isn't working well. We'll have some real evidence behind it.
Thank you very much for that.
That's me?
Yes, you.
Good. I'd like to address my question and concern to the community board. You said that you just had an advisory board. To whom does your advisory go to?
It goes to the borough president, because you guys can't sign the letter.
The borough president?
The borough president, it goes to the city council, it goes, we let DCP, we let them know. The mayor's office, that's where.
Great. Now that you have heard the concern and the general consensus here this evening is that you do not want this project. So my statement to you is, would you incorporate all the concerns that were brought here this afternoon in your advisory?
We always do.
Thank you.
I'll be tracking records. You can actually go on our CB5 YouTube page and see what it is that we're doing as we're fighting for this community. And it will soon be on our website. Cb5-EYN on YouTube. You can see how we fight, how we speak, and we represent the community. If you say no, it is no. We don't want to fight.
I can go away this evening knowing that my community board is against this project, correct?
You can go away.
Can I leave this room this afternoon knowing that my community board is going to oppose this project?
Oppose.
I'm saying, can I go
But
away?
I have to say something to you. This is the first time I've seen you. And it is right? So respectfully. I heard you. Right?
But this is not a first time.
No, respectfully, right? We are fighting because of this issue right now. But let's not wait until it is an issue to fight. That's what I'm saying.
Let's not bring it to what?
Let's not wait until it's an issue like right now to fight. We should have organized. You guys should have been coming to the community board meeting, which is the fourth Wednesday of every month.
You just said participate.
Participate.
I see you.
But we will fight for this community. If you say it's no, it is no. And I'm going to yield to this gentleman right here.
But just let me say, I have been here more than once.
Okay.
I have seen you.
Okay.
You probably didn't see me. And I've been here when you weren't here.
We're here for y'all. Like they said, they didn't have to be there. You have a voice, you're speaking to them directly. Be cordial. Thank you.
Let me begin by thanking the board.
Yes.
They did not have to come because they do not need that in July and August. They do not need. But they have taken the time, the committee taking the time to come to hear us. Let me say that I've heard a lot of comments, you know. And one thing I want to add, the gentleman made an eloquent statement early on that he did not put in he didn't talk about that. They are also part of this process. And the other thing I want to say in terms of being involved, I first was executive assistant to the borough president of Brooklyn, served as the deputy borough president of Brooklyn, and I also served in the Congress for 30 years. Don't underestimate, your ability to influence. Don't underestimate. You want the board, you say, well, they don't advise me. Well, let me just say to you, they advise, they're 50 of them. And that's a big block. And there's one thing about folks involved in politics. They're always thinking about running for something else. And I've been told that you can't get elected unless you have some votes. So you have power, but don't get involved in talking to each other. That's not it. Or fighting a group here, because they have to take what we're saying back to the whole group. They can't say that we're against or we're for. They can't do that. They're committing. So you need to get the board. When the board comes, then the board can make a decision as to whether they're for it or against it. So I want to just commend everybody who's out here tonight, because I'm going to tell you, you have some very, very experts in this room. You have some former commissioners in this room. Just to give you the full course, I live on Highland Boulevard. That's right. Come on. Yeah, and I've lived on Highland Boulevard for 48 years. You got me. That's right.
Our contact information is 718-573-1726, and my email is jfranco.
Slow.
Sure, not a problem. So the number is 718-573-1726. My email is jfranco@nysenate.gov, and I'm always here at the community board meetings as well, and we're here happy to serve you.
Wait, I have a question on that. Doesn't the park and like some of that, the equipment, doesn't that fall under state jurisdiction also, along with federal?
So it can, it really depends.
So then you could stop the city of yes. Right, you could stop the city of yes because it flows in on the park, right? That could be state and federal.
The development, right? The development is different from the city of yes, but absolutely.
Can you look into that, please?
Sorry?
Can you guys look into this, please?
100%, absolutely. Send us whatever email, please feel free to reach us. Keep us in the loop so we can help support. However we can, we're happy to do so.
So let's extend that as a table to write something to them.
Right it.
Sir in the back.
Yeah, so this is a statement. So you mentioned that the overall holding company has a strategic effort to find churches in neighborhoods that look like ours. And so that's an example of anti-Christian capitalism where they identify the structures in Black and Latino populations. And as you know, the Black church and also Latino churches are really strong forces for community. And once they sort of decentralize and take those out of play, right, then the whole community sort of falls apart. So when you take a Black church, you turn a Black church into a luxury apartment building, or you take a Latino church that's in, let's say, a 1 or 2 family building, and you turn it into a luxury apartment, you then sort of create trauma for the Black and Latino people that live in that neighborhood who don't have that form of community. So this is just an example of this entity taking the opportunity to create sort of a tipping point party
talking about the height of the building, 9 stories, 95 feet, 35 apartments, 345, excuse me. The setbacks and the buffers that were discussed because there were some concerns about a building of this height decreasing your privacy and your ability to just be in your home.
Yes.
The shadowing, the affordability of the housing. So I'm going to ask your neighbor, this gentleman here, to come up and talk to us a bit about the neighborhood as it is, as it has been, so that we have some context with which to look at the structure that's being proposed.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is Charles Monaco. I'm over a 50-year resident of the community. I had the good fortune to grow up in Highland Park. Actually, it's wonderful to see so many of you that I recognize. My wife and I have returned to the park back in 1998, where I lived at Bull Place, and formed the Bull Place Block Association. Right after that, I brought what I learned when I was away from this community from Prosper Park, where I was director of environmental education, and we studied the urban environment, both historically and environmentally, in terms of its nature and the social usage patterns. And we have quite a resource in Highland Park. Many of you have fond memories. I know Dowie grew up playing basketball, right? But did you know before the basketball courts, that was an area for just passive recreation. Recreation became a thing in the 20s and 30s, and it showed up in the park in the form of the beautiful facilities that we have been able to maintain. But what was there before is important, because history is important when we think about this place.
Yep.
If we go back, why are people talking about the vernal pool right behind the property that we're looking at developing? The vernal pool is a result of the last ice age, which dropped from 2,000 feet high ice sheets to form those gullies that have water springing up. Spring Creek. Spring Creek comes from the aquifers that drain from Highland Park and the Old Reservoir sites. Those waters still run underneath. That's why you see some of the streets collapsing. So, if you're to come in and interrupt what's there, and the park basically was built by the sons of Olmsted. Frederick Law Olmsted, the designer of Central Prospect Park. Their sons, Charles Olmsted and Frederick Law Jr., along with the man from Queens, Elliott Avenue, they combined to put this place together. But who was really behind it was the Highland Park Society. You know who they were? They're in the houses that you live in, the Stone House, and the house across the street from you, those beautiful mansions. Those are 1888 buildings. And the people there envisioned protecting not just the reservoir, which needed to be protected from encroachments of the waters for Brooklyn back then, 1890-91, Brooklyn had its own water supply, came up from the conduit and into the 3 basins, the last one being built in the 1890s. But that area was laid out with a grand concourse in 1891 that shows many of the old 1888 houses, and those houses were owned by the Highland Park Society, who donated the land for the community and for the protection of the reservoir. So these are historic places. Unfortunately, the park hasn't been protected in terms of its landmark status, but there were people like Dr. Levinson in the house that Darrell lives in, and other people in the community. You were part of that probably too, Congressman. Vito Batista was involved in trying to set up a landmark status for the community, and the park would have been included in that. There wasn't enough community coming forward at the time, and the community had been changing so rapidly that it was hard to get everyone on the same page. So, the point of this is, having gone through my own experience of coming back to the community, leading towards giving city council towards getting funding, putting into the park, helping to stop the redevelopment of the reservoir so we can have what we have today, having the Urban Environmental Youth Corps congressionally funded. We put in dozens of trees. The trees alone along the property on the Highland Boulevard side of this development area are London plane trees, sycamores, if you will, from the 1901, 1902. Behind that is the vernal pools that have a wonderful environment that's a wetland. And you can see in the springtime the water collects there. Putting up buildings at this height will block the sun enough that the endangered species, both plants and animals, birds that live and fly through there, will be affected. So I ask you to keep a larger context when you're thinking about what we're dealing with here, because this place was made to be beautiful, and it was made beautifully by the design, by the addition of the recreational areas, and I know that people feel really strongly about it. There's so many community associations that have followed from what we tried to start back in the 1990s and early part of that 2000 change of the century. And I thank you for this time. There's other things that one other thing I want to comment on. The building of Robin Place, to consider opening that up, that would take up a section of what now is Highland Park. So if you take that eastern border line out, you're knocking out dozens of trees and protections and a buffer to what has become a very active recreation area. So I suggest that the redevelopment of that map to allow for this kind of driveway, which would link up with Robin Street behind it, which is owned by all the owners of those properties. It's been left to go to nature. But if you open that up, you're going to change the whole environment around the vernal pool and the shading and the birds that come through. And I implore everyone to keep working hard at stopping this so that nothing beyond the 3 stories that currently exist gets put in there.
How it goes?
We have some Riverfront residents that have prepared some statements that they'd like to make. So I'd like us to hold space for them to do that. For the next generation of residents. need to go from an R31 to a R6A. And we have to go from 2-story homes to a 95-foot building. So, and then having 345 units, which is gonna bring a lot more residents to the neighborhood and the already stressed infrastructure. So what is the low density height and unit count that would be feasibly viable for this project that you could propose? Something like one of the residents said something like a 5-story building or blank. Can you speak to that as an alternative to a 9-story building?
Not this evening. We can't speak to that this evening.
Can't speak to it this evening. Is there another point in time when you might be able to speak to it?
We'll go back and work with the project team and give it.
Sandy?
Yes, I just want to make sure I didn't miss the part for proposal, because I do have a proposal for what, our community would like to see. Do I have the opportunity to speak that now, or would that be at another, may I come up?
Please.
Thank you, Community Board 5, for the great work that you do and will continue to do for the community. We appreciate you. You volunteer, you're not getting paid for your regular job. You come here, you serve the community. I remember when I was a baby coming here, and y'all would encourage me to speak, and I would never speak. And then now I spoke, and I can't stop. All right, good evening, everyone. My name is Cb5-EYN. I live on Jackie Robinson Parkway. I've been in the community for about 12 years, and I've come to know such great neighbors, new neighbors, old neighbors. Everyone is great, so I commend everyone for coming out here from the Highland Park community. What we decided, some of us, we didn't speak everyone, but the ones that's on our side, that what we would like to see in place is an East New York, very first time wildlife center. The wildlife center would be able to cover everything from bird species. We also have the wetlands, we have a pond there, we have ducks that come there, swans that come there, and I don't know what's in the water, maybe some fish and all other type of creatures.
Yes, just to follow up on some of the things you said, any sort of construction in this area, even a 5-story building would be better than a 9, but any sort of construction is going to have problems that weren't necessarily mentioned in the environmental study. They were focused on the most toxic of building materials, but every single building material in construction is dangerous for the people nearby. Just the dust alone. We're looking at the effects of projects 10, 20 years later where people are getting cancer and they don't know where they're getting the cancer. It's from those construction projects, and it's just because of dust. So any amount of construction in those buildings to build anything beyond what is normal for this area, meaning small residential 2 stories, that's why it was designated that way, is to keep these people safe and keep the park safe. Those things won't necessarily be mentioned in that report because they're looking at the most egregious chemicals. But all building construction is going to cause that, even local. We're all doing projects on our house. Luckily, they're minimal enough, but even those are having effects on us that we're not aware of. So anything bigger than that is going to be a problem. Another thing about filling residential space, there are a bunch of projects that have recently gotten built or being built down the hill that they're having trouble filling. So putting more buildings, the idea of City of Yes to bring more affordable housing to people is great, but there's already affordable housing that's not being filled. So we don't need more right now in this area. I also just want to say that we came down just for this meeting from Pennsylvania, and I just want to thank you for doing that. I still live up here. Let's come back and forth.
Excuse me, lady with the brown, please.
Hi, good evening. My name is Johnny Lloyd. I am a resident of this community board, and I'm also the regional vice president for local NARAD, N-A-R-A-D. We're the nation's first housing advocacy organization. We fought that lockstep with Dr. King for the fair housing, 1968 fair housing legislation, which gave anyone of color the right to own, live, and rent without discrimination. And I wanted to add a piece of point of reference to the gentleman that talked about the faith-based development and the impact that it has. What I want to first is to recognize and add value to this because this project is a proposed or permanent sale. Am I correct? The diocese?
No.
Lease.
What happens? You will continue to see these types of programs and projects in the community. They are happening. Oftentimes, the churches or the houses of worship have chosen to do these projects. They've made an active choice to do it. Oftentimes, because the congruence that used to go there are no longer there. They're not showing up. Oftentimes, the churches cannot support even
then they don't attend.
That's
So
correct.
I want to ask that as well. So thank you for your commentary. We are at 8:45. I want to give anyone who didn't get a chance to speak an opportunity to chime in before we wrap up. The rest of the development team or the committee. I see your hand. I just want to give someone else that may not have gotten an opportunity to speak to say something. Go ahead, please.
Really quick question. The gentleman brought up the 100-plus-year-old trees that are city-owned or park-owned in front of, there's 6 of them.
Yes.
And there's 21 trees total from park entrance to park entrance on Highland Boulevard. So this is almost a third of those trees that this development, 100-year-old trees, that this development would tear down and destroy.
Right.
What is the authorization, like how is that authorized? Who okays that? Because aren't those Parks Department property? Like, doesn't the Parks Department have a say in what happens to those trees? Because once they're gone, they're not going to get replaced in our lifetime. And Highland Boulevard, a boulevard means a wide street lined with trees, and they're taking away a third of the trees on one side for this one building. And it adds, I mean, Highland Boulevard is such a unique street. It's a beautiful, like you don't get this anywhere else. Well, maybe down in Sheepshead Bay or something, but in our area, you don't get streets like Highland Boulevard, and to destroy that, it's gone forever. So if we could at least maintain those trees, maintain the character of Highland Park somehow, or Highland Boulevard, in addition to the park. Because it's as important walking down that sidewalk, looking at the beautiful buildings, looking at the residences, and people having pride in their homes instead of 350 rental apartments. You know, it's a dramatic difference, not only in density, but in character and attitude, and the way a place feels. And I think everyone in this room is very passionate about our neighborhood. And I don't think that, I mean, I agree with everyone here that this development benefits the developer, it does not benefit the neighborhood. That's all. How do we save those 100-year-old trees?
That is parks, and that's the city.
Emily, can you stand up?
Emily, I can't hear you.
I can't hear you. The Parks Department has what's called a tree restitution law. Any tree that is killed or removed in the course of development, whether that's intentional or not, there is a cost calculator based on the diameter of that tree. So the more mature the tree, the larger the diameter. There's going to be a really significant cost to the developer to replace those trees in kind with a multiplier effect to try to meet the diameter that's been lost from a mature tree. So there is a calculation. It would be very expensive if they kill those mature trees, and we have a lot of them. So I just wanted to respond. There is a process that works on this.
Underground, strawberry, sapling. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Yeah, we've talked about a few potential situations where we'd be more okay with the development by reducing the number of stories, by protecting the trees. And I just want to caution us about making concessions that will become a slippery slope for them to be able to put the development in the first place and then move the needle as we go. So we all collectively, I think we agree that we want to keep the original buildings there as our primary thing. That would be the ultimate solution. If we give them an inch on that, they might end up taking a mile. So we really need to focus on preventing at the earliest stage and not giving into any concessions, because they might try to say, oh, okay, we'll give you this as a way of getting it through, and then that might not end up happening because of one thing or another, whether malicious intent or not. We just need to stay focused on what is going to be the most immediate thing that will prevent this from being built. And according to conversations that we've had with Emily, the Vernal pool is the thing that usually is the death knell for this type of project if they can be affected. So if we can use that to be that kind of linchpin to stop anything rather than saying, okay, let's try to work in some concessions that feel good to us now but may not happen later.
We'll take you as a last comment or question.
My name is Monica Gray. I am a shareholder of 224 Highland Park for 35 years. I love my block, High Point Road. Just so proud of that. But I just want to piggyback on what Mr. Lloyd was talking about. You know, this is the beginning. Okay? I beg all of us to get together and try to create some type of conservatory so we can document things and we can keep our land the way we want to keep it. Because if these developers lose interest, they're only first. If they get rejected, they're only first. The door is open now. People know where we live. Okay? Everybody knows one piece. So I'm hoping that we will be encouraged to, again, document some things, landmark some things in our neighborhood, and create some type of conservatory. So we can, at least in my lifetime.
We're going to close this meeting. I want to thank you all for coming out tonight. Thank the development team for coming out tonight, and the members of the board, the office for coordinating and being with us until almost 9 o'clock tonight as we discuss this very important project to you all. We encourage you to continue to engage with the community board, not just when it is around a project like this, but on a continual basis so that we can continue to advocate as a block unit on all projects. All right? Thank you so much for coming out. Please make sure your email address is on the board so that you can receive correspondence from the district office about the meeting.
Thank you everybody for watching. Understand, we got to talk to St. Peter's Church, try to get back our community leaders back at 105 Hill Avenue. We need to talk to Reverend Banky so we can be more aware with Upper Highland back into our neighborhood. We have a lot of Hispanics in our neighborhood that don't vote, like to party, and they're unaware of what's going on. So I'm here tonight sharing the video and letting everybody know what's going on. Have a good evening.